Some of the most remarkable people in this world don't appear on movie screens or in sports arenas. They work in offices, study in classrooms, and raise families at home. They're just ordinary people like you and I. Ordinary people who happen to have experienced something extraordinary and survived. Off the Map is a travel television series I directed and shot over a 12-year period. Unlike most explorer stories, these modern travelers are women. Ordinary women who agreed to be filmed taking journeys to extraordinary places. On the James Bay program, I was joined by my female host, Katie. Our intent was to travel to James Bay and learn about the Cree culture.
James Bay is located in the northeastern part of the province of Ontario. The bay flows into a great water mass known as the Hudson's Bay. It is very cold in James Bay for most of the year. Temperatures are well below freezing.
The Cree are the largest group of First Nations in Canada, with 220,000 members and 135 registered bands. Together, their reserve lands are the largest of any First Nations group in the country.
Most of the people who live here are Native Canadians and are from the Cree Nation. My plan was to spend some time in town meeting people and learning a bit about the local Cree culture. Then I would be braving the cold for a number of outdoor activities. First, I visited a class at the local community center. It's part of a program that is trying to keep the local language alive.
There's a D on here, okay?
Many younger people grow up speaking English, and the Cree language is being forgotten. I found pronunciation to be very difficult, but I did pick up a few words.
Residential schools cultivated the prejudice that the Cree language was inferior. Parents stopped teaching their children their native language in the belief that doing so would help the children find economic success or avoid discrimination.
My second stop was at the Cree Village Craft Center, where I met Mary. I'm Kate. Oh, your hand. Sorry. Nice to meet you. Wow, what are you making?
I'm making a beret.
Oh, really? Oh, neat.
So you want to try it?
Yeah. Okay, see if I can do it. Okay. She showed me how to bead a barrette on a small loom, based on the traditional Cree loom. I'm trying to. Oh, I got two in one shot. The Cree are known for their intricate beadwork, which can be found on their gloves and moccasins. And to start, it was this string here, just tied here to start?
No. Like you leave some and then it comes up here. And you start from here, and then you leave a little bit, so...
Oh, like the end piece? Yeah. Okay, and it just gets tucked
in? Just wrap it up.
Oh,
so
neat.
Go along, yeah.
Okay, so then... I guess I found it interesting. Okay, so... And I felt clumsy. Okay. The beadwork was fun, but I was really looking forward to doing some outdoor activities. The next thing I attended was a Cree outdoor educational program that revitalizes the Cree culture. And it was interesting because they had laid a net underneath the ice. The students were being taught by an old Cree trapper, George Jolly. He knew the traditional way of trapping and hunting. And the activity was pulling the net up from one of the holes in the ice. And they had caught 3 white fish. And it was a really exciting moment. I understand why George's last name was Jolly. He was quite a character.
Exchange it. Yeah. Okay.
George offered to take me to see his trap lines.
The Cree Indians were primarily hunting people.
What are we doing? You tell me, George.
You tell me.
The first trap he showed me was for martens.
What are you going to do?
Checking a trap. Martens are trapped for their valuable soft fur. Oh. Wow. George, like many Cree in James Bay, makes his livelihood by hunting and trapping. George spoke Cree and enough English for us to communicate. And I spent a wonderful day with him as he showed me how his traps work. Oh, wow. And how does it work?
Well, first thing he does, he's hungry.
Yeah.
Like you. Right?
Yeah, it's true.
And me. So he puts this in. See it?
Yeah.
You like that, look. Same like
Oh! Yeah.
that's the way it works.
So what happens when the marten dies? Does he cry or does...
Well, I don't know much about that. Maybe.
How do you get him out of there? And
Well, you lose your trap like that.
Uh-huh.
It's hanging there.
And he can't break the rope?
No, no.
No.
So if it's loose like that, what you do is just open them like that.
And he comes out.
And he comes out.
So if you just catch one marten, does he have partners with him?
This time of the season,
Oh yeah.
a male gets after a female now. Do you want to get married?
Really?
Is that what you say?
No, I wanted to know if the marten travels alone. He comes alone.
Yeah, mostly never see. He runs separate, eh?
Okay.
Okay.
How many martens do you catch a year in that?
Can't really tell you how many. I don't count them. I just
Take them.
take them here.
Yeah. Later on, he explained how a beaver trap worked.
What do you want to do here?
Oh, we're gonna trap a beaver?
Set the trap.
Set a trap. I guess I was really struck by his knowledge of the area.
Put it there.
Okay,
Do you know anything about setting a beaver trap?
I know nothing.
Do you want to know?
Yes.
Okay, I'll show you that.
Okay. He didn't have numbers he could rhyme off of the number of animals he'd killed or even the area of his trap line, how large it was, but he just had this years of knowledge. How long have you been trapping for?
I say over 40 years.
40 years. And it made me wonder if it would potentially be lost one day. Oh, look at those.
Dangerous now.
Should I step back a bit? Yeah. Okay.
Because you never know when it's going to snap.
Snap,
okay?
yeah. And I felt really honored for him to have explained and to have shared all of that knowledge with me. And who taught you how to do all the setting up the traps? You just did it on your own?
Yeah.
Yeah. What's the bait for the beaver?
No bait.
No bait?
No.
No bait? You don't put sapling? You don't put his food? No. Go in the
But
same.
these has to be dry.
Why is that?
Eh?
Why?
Because he eats this.
Oh, so he'll just eat
This
the
is
bark.
fresh, eh? They have to be dry so you won't bother them.
Yeah.
And when you find where they go, road like we walk,
Yeah.
they go same way. And once you find that, just put it there. Mark it in. See the bottom?
Yeah.
The way it is right now. Don't push it anymore.
No, because it'll.
That's to the mud now.
So how does it work? How does the trap work?
It works like this. Once you hit this, see? Push that in. Snaps off like that.
After setting the traps, we set off for George's camp. We had a small problem, though. The skidoo kept getting stuck in the snow. It wasn't easy with the snow coming up to my waist. But eventually we managed. It was getting a bit late in the afternoon and the temperature was well below zero. The snowmobile ride out to his campsite was excruciating. It was quite an experience, taxing my ability to turn corners and go over bumps. Even though the language barrier made communication a bit difficult at times, I was struck by George's knowledge as a trapper and learned a lot from him. I had great respect for this man who knew how to live and survive in such a harsh environment. We finally arrived at George's campsite an hour later. I was exhausted. I've never winter camped before, but I was confident in George's abilities. Later on that evening, when the northern lights came out, and I lay on the powdery snow staring at a myriad of stars, I felt completely content. And I look forward to the plane ride and dog sled trip I had planned for the next day. The next day, my new guide, Jimmy, was going to drive me out to catch a small plane to view James Bay from the air. His mode of transportation was quite amusing. It was basically a large box which was towed behind a skidoo. I've always considered myself to be a strong person. My ability to withstand difficult situations, or my endurance to last through physically demanding experiences. But I wasn't prepared for my feelings of vulnerability. The cold. The only thing I can say was that I found it cold. After having slept outside in sub-zero temperatures the night before, I wasn't sure I'd be able to endure another full day in the snow. Because we arrived earlier than anticipated, we decided to wait in the tower and try and warm up while we waited for the plane. Wow, that was quite the long ride. Let's check it out. Wow. So how far is the Hudson's Bay from here?
Hudson's Bay is about 3 kilometers that way.
Okay, and which way is the mouth of the river from here?
That way.
It's out over that way.
Yeah.
Wow, it's river beautiful. I was quite surprised at how small the plane was. Just a two-seater, piloted by a young Cree woman named Virginia, about my age. It was quite refreshing to see a young woman piloting the plane, considering how remote an area James Bay is. Although I'm not a nervous flyer, I'm often somewhat concerned. Flying with Virginia in a small and basic plane put me in touch with what flying is all about. I felt confident in Virginia and yet in awe of her strength and ability. More than anything, it reminded me of driving a car. That relationship made me feel more relaxed about flying. Besides that, it just was fascinating to see how remote and how far north we were, and it was like we passed the last road, you know, an hour ago, and it was just shrubs and swamps, but covered in snow. As we landed, I thanked Virginia for a wonderful flight and braced myself for the cold. Later, I spent an amazing afternoon with Carmen Tozer, learning how to drive a team of huskies.
The Woodland Cree tackled the winter terrain on dog sled. Their flat-bottomed toboggan slid effortlessly through the snow while the dogs warded off predators.
This particular piece here, basically, it has a functional purpose, and that is if you should happen to run into a tree, the bush bowl is designed so that it will deflect. And I go through one or two of those a year or so.
Really? So there's the odd accident in the...
On occasion, on occasion. It happens. The back portion of the sled is where you'll be spending most of your time. And as you can see, we have an assortment of equipment back here that you'll be using. First of all, you have the two runners.
Okay.
This is the position that you'll be running in. And perhaps the most important piece of equipment back here is this contraption. This is a double claw brake. And basically, this is the only control that you have over your dogs other than your verbal commands.
So when you're heading out, you spend most of the time on the ground or on the sled?
It depends. Early in the morning, like when they're out, they're fresh, they're keen to go. There's no way you could keep up with them. So you ride. Since we're back here, we might as well go over a couple of the commands.
Okay.
If you have your dogs out and they're ready to go and you want them to take off, you'll give them the command to hike, not mush.
Hike, not mush, okay.
Not mush. It's called the sport of dog mushing, but we never use the actual word mush.
Really?
Look over your shoulder and say, mush, supper time? To have them turn right, you use the command G.
Okay.
To have them turn left, the command ha.
So G and ha.
And whoa.
Whoa.
And that's to slow them down in conjunction with the brake. This here's the harness. And basically, it goes on the dogs, like so. If this is the dog's head, it goes through like that.
I never realized that dog sledding could be so complicated. And there are so many steps involved in the process. Carmen made it look so easy. Soon it was my turn. First, put the harness on the dog. Then take the dog to the sled. Hook the dog and harness to the sled. Then you do it all over again. Putting the harness on the right way is easier said than done. It's quite a chore harnessing a full team of dogs. I don't know who was more excited, me or the dogs.
Yeah, you got it. Good boy.
Woo, they're so energized.
All right, they're ready.
I can feel it.
Okay, so we're good on the sled.
Okay,
Now go.
all right, sounds good. Hey, hike, hike. The part I enjoyed the most, besides the eager huskies, was the feeling of exhilaration when I was alone, flying down the snowy river, yelling, hike, hike! I felt so free. The sensation of traveling so fast was amazing. It's sort of like the feeling you have when you're driving fast down an empty road, free of conventions and restrictions. Come on! Hey, hey! It's just you and nature. Suddenly, all that existed were the dogs and miles of snow ahead. My only problem would be how to stop. On my last day in James Bay, I got up early. The sense of isolation was overwhelming. And yet at the same time, there was a sense of tranquility. I like the mixture of feelings that travel brings out. It keeps me on my toes.
Long and tear-shaped snowshoes, sometimes known as the swallowtail model, were used by the Northern Cree during months when the snow was heavy. Beaver tail models, also used by Northern Cree peoples, were wide around the foot with an upturned toe and narrow tail.
This trip taught me a little bit about the way of life up in the north. In particular, about life of a trapper, which was sort of a highlight of that journey, and how solitary it is, and yet, at the same time, how much humor and character and joy people can have, even though they live alone and in such extreme conditions.
I think that my journey to the James Bay area was about getting away from the everyday. And I think the important thing about travel for me is getting away and getting a perspective on my life, on my beliefs, my values. It puts them into question, and I think it builds a stronger character because of it. I'd recommend travel to anyone.
Yeah, if you ever get the opportunity to travel anywhere, do it. If you happen to go up north, dress warmly, because you won't believe how cold it can get.
The federal government, the Quebec provincial government, and representatives from each of the James Bay Cree communities signed the first of the modern treaties. Under the agreement, the Cree receive $225 million in compensation and give up their claim to certain land in northern Quebec. As part of the agreement, Cree communities also gain special hunting and fishing rights and more opportunity for self-government.